News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth, darkhookmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, wishing you all a very happy National Guy Day.
Okay, explain, Max.
It's the name.
That's it?
Yeah, that's what I was assuming.
Oh, it's not just 50% of the population.
No. I mean, although it could be for 50% of the population if you wanted to.
Okay. Is that all your choices today, Max? That seems like a little... We're getting heavy on the name references now.
Well, it's also National Camera Day and also National Bacon Burnt In Day.
And you didn't lead with those. Okay. Bacon burnt?
As in the burned ends of the bacon. Don't
Okay.
ask me how these holidays were formed.
Well, if
I
we
just
do
honor
that,
them.
this whole show will turn into a food dude conversation. But I think we'll put them all on the table, Max. But okay, National Guy. If you're, I don't know a lot of guys. I knew some guys growing up in the '70s. Allan, you don't meet as many these days. So, but,
Guy Fieri.
Okay. Anyway,
That's about it, man. I'm sitting there going, I can think of like one person with the first name of Guy.
Guy
Okay.
Fawkes.
All right, let's move it along.
Yeah, he's dead now.
R.I.P.
There's more on the table anyway. So, but if you want to chime in today, it's a good day to do it. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And don't do what several people have been doing recently, where they text us like when there's 30 seconds left in the show when we can't acknowledge them. So I think we have one we're going to circle back to, right, Max?
Correct.
Shortly. But also, you can watch the show on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page and the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page. And we also invite you, while you're over on social media, to scoot on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there. One of those posts is, of course, we're changing things up a little this week for our Great Moments in Building History. Max introduced me to an architect. I have to be honest, I never heard of him. But his work is pretty well known. Antoni Gaudi. Gaudi, which Allan tells me there's a famous band that is a big fan of them.
There's albums, there's Catalan modernism, there's quite a bit to Mr. Gaudi.
But his approach is very unique, so we didn't want to zero in on only one particular structure. We wanted to zero in on his sensibilities, his architectural design, basically his concepts, because they're actually were really revolutionary and ahead of its time. So we're going to look at a few of his structures and mostly discuss the man, I suppose you could say. We might have a guest drop by. We might not. I haven't found out. I haven't got confirmation, so I'm not going to over tease it. But Allan, the idea of your home being a battle zone really came home to me this week, and I think it did to you. It wasn't me personally. It was a customer of mine that had a water tragedy, and she's not alone. You've heard of these involving the air conditioning pan in your home. We're not playing games, folks.
Just took care of one of those last week. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got that. Also, in Allan's Week in Review, it sounds very positive as far as I can see. I didn't see any tragic, except for something with a lawnmower, but...
Well, let's see. Bent lawnmower blades, and you really need to check your home smart system.
Okay, all right, because you got to have that. Otherwise, it's not smart to
it can
ignore
turn
your smart
on
system.
you. Yes,
we've got a few other things that I'm gonna maybe we'll tease them out as the show goes, but we're not, because in case our special guest drops by. But before we get to any of those things, I'm looking over at Max. That's appropriate. I wanted to say something. I've made an observation, because we've known Max for years, in and out of this radio business.
We've met. Yeah, we've met.
And I've noticed Max has evolved. He always shares his plumbing stories with me. It's an education born through catastrophe. And Max, I kind of wanted you to talk about your evolution as a plumber, because you represent the everyman out there as far as homeowners and things, but you've learned through just trial and error, right?
Exactly. So trial and error. Let's go back all the way to back when I was in high school, and I was staying at a family friend's place for an anime convention. Out of the city, And so let's just say that the turlets over there are a little bit more finicky. And all of a sudden, what could have been a simple problem turned to a flood of the upstairs restroom. And it was like, I was kind of stoically approached, and I was like, hey, by the way, the toilet upstairs is flooding. And so my dad leapt up there and everything and like turned off the water. It was easy peasy. But what wasn't easy peasy was the cleanup process.
Right.
Nope.
Right. Well, what caused it to overflow?
I honestly can't remember.
Okay. Well, I do because Allan, you know this. Folks, if you have an overflowing toilet, it is so easy to stop. You turn the faucet down at the bottom there to at least stop the flow of water coming in.
Oh, there's a much
and you
faster
can lift
way.
up the lid and you pull the
float up.
The float, but you didn't know that, Max. You were just a knuckleheaded teen. So you okay? But then what happened?
And then similar problems occurred and everything as a result of me clogging the toilets. I won't say how, but anyways, again, it was the problem of the float. And so eventually, through trial and error, I learned the fact that you first have to cut the little water off, like once, and don't keep like flushing it until the water rises and rises and rises because the clog isn't going to get any better or better. So first you got to cut the water off, and then you got to plunge, and then not only that, but if worse ever came to worse, like you said, you lift the little there's this little tower at the left side of the toilet and everything when you do that.
Right.
And so it becomes like a whole process. Even if it's a little bit inconvenient at first and you'd rather just keep flushing until you hope the problem goes away.
No. You never do that. Never do that.
You know what it sounds like when I'm listening to this, though? It reminds me a lot of watching MASH. First, you stop the bleeding. You get them in. Your whole idea, this is like a triage. Stop the bleeding, then get it, then address the mess, then you can get in there and do the surgery, right?
Seize the disaster before the monster gets out of the room.
Right.
Because the water doesn't stop. And there's
a lot of pressure in that water, too.
And I've seen this look in plenty of people's eyes of sheer terror as the water begins getting closer and closer to the edge of the top of the toilet.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to stop.
No.
It's going to keep coming.
You got to seize take action immediately.
Now, there are new toilets that are anti-overflow. So they actually do have a little tiny infrared sensor or other type. There's mechanical sensors as well that will let a toilet know, all right, shut it. Quit
I like the
flowing.
sound of that. Yeah.
Quit flowing. So that is a relatively new invention, but
I think everybody with teenagers needs one of those.
Oh my gosh! Well, I got news for you. One of the worst clogs I ever saw was caused by a cat. And before everybody sends me hate mail, no, the cat was not in the toilet.
Oh, good.
But the cat loved to play with the toilet paper.
Yeah.
And got on the rim of the toilet, didn't fall in, but was adjacent to where the little feline could unroll the toilet paper roll.
I've seen that
and got
Facebook
it going
video.
fast enough. He actually created an entire roll of toilet paper mache in the toilet.
Oh, yeah.
There's an episode of Bernie Mac where these kids, it's like the equivalent to Costco, and they're like taking this this dowel with like 3 things of toilet paper, and they're like flushing it. They're like flushing the toilet, and they're like having like a race to see how fast the toilet paper can come off the rolls.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I saw that episode. That's pretty good. But Max, so you went from a indifferent whatever
Indifferent. And then
to now you're a seasoned, hardened. I mean, you pay attention to these signals, right?
Well, I kind of have to. Let's just say that all toilets aren't created equal, and I have to accommodate for that, let's just say. But another thing I actually recently encountered a crisis averted was there was a toilet incident where, all right, everything was all in well. There was no clog or whatever, but this was a fault of the toilet itself. And that's because the tower itself sprung a leak, and the water down below in the bowl began to rise through no fault of its own. So I had to turn the source of the water off all the way to the right and everything in order to avert the disaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. So, well, it's funny that you're tuned into that stuff now, man. It's funny what how things imprint themselves on it. I imagine that experience when you were a teenager left its mark.
You kind of get PTSD a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of go, where's the shop vac? Is it somewhere close? So we got this thing covered? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And everybody wonders how I became Captain Safety.
Yeah.
And it's because when you've seen enough stuff go wrong, and you understand that something can go wrong at any given minute.
It will.
If it can, it's Murphy's Law. If it can, it probably will.
Yeah. Somehow tragedy is a great teacher. So, I mean,
it's a hard teacher.
but Max, I guess I'm looking at you and I'm wondering what your next education is going to be in, because you're pretty much, you got toilets figured out. I mean, you know how to, and they're very basic. I mean, as we've seen.
Oh no!
Although I like this new sensor idea you're talking about.
Well, I suspect Max's next triumph will be over the disposal.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
the sink.
You've clogged a few of those, I know. So, okay.
Thank you,
Max,
Rice.
it was mostly an opportunity to salute your plumbing prowess. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Was that toilet always next to the refrigerator?
Nat, you ever try lugging the toilet up a flight of stairs?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Okay, I see where this theme's going. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max on the, behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. I didn't tease it, Jay, because I wasn't sure if you got called away on duty. So, but there's his walk-up music. So, okay, but Jay's here. If you've got any roofing or remodeling, I actually have something very pertinent that we're going to ask you about later involving insurance, Jay. So, but anyway, you going to say anything?
When was I going to do that? You've not stopped since I got
Usually
in.
you jump in and it's like, yeah, I'm here. Okay.
I'd have to jump.
Yeah,
all right.
He's got that 4-gallon, 50-cent icy thing over here full of caffeine.
Well,
He's wound.
Something's going on. When he came out to get me,
wound.
30
Yeah.
seconds, 30 seconds.
Okay, but anyway, this is a good day to call us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989, like some people have done, right, Max? So,
Correct. We even have somebody on the line.
okay, who do we got on the line?
We got Deuce.
Deuce. Is that his real name? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Deuce,
the
is this a
second,
nickname?
So I've been called Deuce all my life, but
There you go.
it was
Awesome.
before drop a deuce became a common phrase.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, now, Deuce, you're calling in. This is, okay, a toilet story. Is this right? And
Yes.
this is
yes.
a family show, but so, and people are eating breakfast right now, so keep that in mind. But
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was living in Ohio at the time, and the wife called me and told me that the toilets were backing up into the bathtub. That I wanted to call a plumber. I says, I'm a man. I can take care of that. I said, I'll take care of it when I get home.
I like his attitude.
We got a walkout basement, and so when I get home, I'm plunging. It's doing nothing, so I'm like going. I walk down in the basement, and we've got a 4-inch plug for a clean out. So I'm like going, okay, well, I'll just unscrew that plug, and in 5-gallon buckets, I'll fill the bucket up, then put the plug back in, and well, my daughter and wife are down there, and I've got the bucket. I take that thing off, man, it starts shooting poo everywhere, and so I'm screaming, get me a trash can. So she brings me a trash can that has one of those little foot levers at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Where you step on it to open. So poo's going in the top and then running out the foothole all over my.
Yeah, those aren't watertight, man. So, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like going right outside the basement. I had a 50-gallon trash can, so I'm screaming at her to get that, and she goes out there. It's froze to the ground. She can't get it undone.
Oh.
So, and all this while, I got this 4-inch thing. I mean, it's backed up to the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I got this 50-gallon trash can. I went out there, got it unstuck, and put it underneath the where it was flowing, and it filled the 50-gallon thing up. So I know
Oh, yeah.
I had at least 100, 150 gallons. And when it starts trickling, I'm sitting there, and you can't do anything but laugh.
Yeah,
And
I
so
like
I'm
your
laughing.
attitude. Yeah, I bet your wife wasn't.
She wasn't. Oh, she's over there just steaming.
Yeah.
And my daughter goes, Mom, Dad's covered in doo-doo, and he's laughing. So
I tell you, Deuce, that story is so good. I'm going to start saying that happened to me.
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell people that
but
story.
that's not the end of it.
Oh, come on with it.
The basement wasn't finished, but we had one area of it kind of, had some, carpet down and had a TV and stuff like that. And so it's starting to get towards that area. So we run and get the shop vac and start, kind of soaking it up. Well, it was basically, I don't know if we had the wrong filter in it or what, but as we're sucking it up, out the back of the shop vac, it's like a fecal mister.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're sucking it all up, and the vacuum is just spewing it all over the
spraying it
furniture and the
everywhere.
couch and carpet. So, it was bad.
Deuce,
That's all.
I've got a major criticism for you right now. The first thing you should have grabbed instead of the 5-gallon bucket was your video camera. Why, sir, did you not record this? You'd have been a YouTube star. You'd have made $1 million off of
Left
this
money
thing.
on the table, didn't he?
Man, that's from now on. I hope that's your first impulse. What,
Yeah.
Allan?
Well, in today's age, everybody's got their cell phones. My daughter certainly would have been taping it. But,
Oh yeah, as she should have been.
right.
to make you feel slightly better about yourself, I went to was at a small service building, and we were doing safety checks and all that. And I went down into the basement, and the clean out is exactly as you have described. 4-inch pipe, right there. There's the clean out, right there in the corner. And somebody had hung a sign on it that said, "Beware."
Yeah.
And then underneath it, it said, "This is Old Faithful."
Oh,
Well, do you know what had happened? We had an ice dam. The exit pipe into our septic system
Yeah.
was too close to the wall, and we had an ice dam.
Yep. Yeah, you did. I was about to
that-
ask,
that-
how much
that
hot water
pushed
did it
that
take to
plug
free
right
this
up
up?
against the wall.
Yeah, I was curious, and Deuce, we should just say for listeners that don't know what a clean out is, if you've ever seen it's like Allan said, it's like a 4-inch pipe with a cap on the end that's square, and you could take a big fat wrench and untwist it, and don't do that willy-nilly. That is for, that's access that you may not,
Well,
you may not
the one
want to
thing
get to.
people are usually shocked about is the volume of contents that even
Yes.
a small house
Yes.
can have in those pipes.
Yeah, Deuce, I got to be honest. I don't know how it holds 50 gallons other than it
easy.
must be that there was pressure from the
Oh
septic
no, there's
system.
an
right?
there's
Oh,
an upstairs and a
I
downstairs.
mean,
That's
the
a
whole
lot of
upstairs,
water.
2 bathrooms from the
Yeah.
kitchen all the way to the 2 bathrooms. I mean, it was.
Yeah, he
It
said he
was
had a
full.
daughter. So I know
Yeah.
there's.
Well, and Deuce, we should also say for
you
folks.
need one of those. You need one of those read instructions before opening manuals. on
Oh,
those things.
yeah.
I like your impulse though. You were like, "I'm a man. I can do things."
Oh, yeah.
And but yeah.
Famous last words, man. Famous last words.
And I bet you, and like we said, I'm sure his wife wasn't smiling. But folks, if you ever have that unpleasant situation of your toilet basically backing up into your bathtub, it's not the toilet, it's the main line that has to be. So Deuce had the right impulse, but holy smokes, man! Like I said, why did you not grab your video camera?
I think it was before video cameras. I mean, this was back in the early 2000s. But
Wow, man.
Deuce,
Well, I'm glad you survived, my friend.
that is the call of the
I just thought you would enjoy that. You guys have a great Saturday.
Hey, you too, Deuce, and call us again, man. Wow, that was a great story.
Right.
Good talking to you, my friend. Wow, the poor man. But hey, he's got, this is why America's a great country.
It is.
We need men like Deuce
We
running
got
around.
that can-do attitude. Even though you might not know you're in for it.
Yeah.
Well, even in
Old
Memphis.
Faithful, though. I like that.
Oh my gosh, we saw that sign. We fell out, and because Because whoever hung the sign had been long gone from the facility, had retired years ago.
They were doing you a favor.
But that was kind of, I looked at that and I died laughing. And one of the new guys I was with looked at me and he's like, what does he mean by that? And I said, oh, trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me. If this thing backs up downstream from this clean out, there is far more water in this line than you can possibly imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't stop.
No.
You know,
and
it's
it doesn't smell good.
Generally, no. No.
I don't know. Deuce set the bar very high. We still want you to get in touch with us today at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. And he did a pretty good job of not ruining people's breakfast, too.
Oh, there are people out there shaking their head in utter agreement with what just happened.
So, Jay, hey, it's good to have you in the
Thank you, man.
to have
Glad
you in
to
the
be
house.
here.
We had since our last visit, we had 2 pretty bad storms. Heavy rain. We did in Midtown where I was working.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
it
was-
only
that was
lasted
a
like
little-
20 minutes, but
That's the key right there.
no wind though. It was just raining. What does that do? I mean,
Well, it depends on the condition of your roof, and your exterior. Typically, if you're going to have rain, you need heavy rain, and you need a good bit of wind, some 40, 50, 60 mile an hour straight line winds to do roof damage typically. And again, that's all dependent on how old the roof is and what type of shingle it is and so on and so forth. But just rain in and of itself is typically not a problem unless it's just an absolute flash flood in the 30, 45-minute range. Then sometimes you can overflow gutters and back some water back into the house.
I think that was my question, is because we talk about roofing a lot, but I think maybe today we could talk a little bit about gutters and things as well.
Yeah. Love to talk about exhaust systems and attic ventilation too, because we've got a lot of stuff going on that front and around town.
Oh, you got a minute. What can you tell us about that? So those are becoming issues. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of customers that'll call and just say, "Man, it's just so hot in my attic. What can I do?" And of course, there's always something that you can do, but that's all dependent upon what style of roof that you actually have. So as long as you don't have anything like a mansard roof or just an absolute flat roof, you can at least add some attic fans, some powered attic fans that can help you. They're not my preference, but if you can't do anything else, then you can do that. Obviously, we're big fans of ridge vents, as we've discussed many times on the show. And those, again, are proven to take 25 to 30 degrees of heat out of the attic at all time, and they're affordable.
Oh, and I have a testimonial about that when we come back, a personal testimonial. All right, so it's all on the table. What a show.
It's in the can.
It's in the can. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
One of these days, you're going to get yourself killed, you know that, and I will be...
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Okay. Jay, get back over on the mic. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So what better day could you choose to call us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989.
You have a tough act to follow, though, because Deuce really dropped.
Yeah, he was the call of the week, or well, I think he was the call of the year so far.
Yeah, so
Good
far,
job,
yeah,
Deuce.
yeah,
Great
yeah,
story, and like I said, my only criticism was that he didn't catch it on video, because he'd have been a rich man if he did. So, so Jay, before the break, you sort of teed it up, and I just wanted to offer my testimonial before we jump into this. But we always showcase the how much we love these ridge vents for your home. I just want to tell you, so every month when we get our MLGW bill, it's kind of this little running gag with my wife and I. We try to guess how much it's going to be. And I remember the days in any given summer, it'd be probably over $400 or something. I could tell you, we're here in the middle of the summer. My bill was $265 for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. I think that's pretty good.
I hear that all the time, Joe. That's the crazy
And I think
thing
it's the
about
roof,
it.
man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense if you just think about the concept that all of that air that was trapped in that attic because there just wasn't adequate, place for it to get out. Now that whole attic area, it can be vented. And if you've got the soffit vents, which is the ideal situation, you're drafting air through the bottom and it's going out the top, and it works. GAF absolutely insists that with any of their warranty products that you have to have ridge vents because they know how important they are. So that's one part of it. Remember the other part of it, Joe, and that is that since that ambient temperature is not 145 in there anymore and down to, maybe 95 to 100 potentially, now the shingles aren't baking from the inside and the outside. Therefore, they're going to give you another 35% life out of the shingle.
I was just thinking about it. If you were to take a shingle or if you were to take a 2x4 or a piece of wiring and you stick it in your oven on warm, nobody would do that. But yet that's what you're doing. And if you did, what would you expect to happen? But, you got to keep your attic as cool as possible, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Well,
that stuff dries, it cracks, it bakes,
Well, as we keep talking about the house itself, is, and since we're going to get into Mr. Gaudi here in a little bit, we're going to be talking about, in his particular eyes, the systems that go into building a house.
Yeah.
Because each layer has a certain effect, and each style of house has different systems built into it. So we were talking about backing up the plumbing. There are certain styles and certain layouts where backing up the plumbing is a lot easier in certain style homes than it is in others. When we start talking about the roof, you start talking about the attic, you're talking about the types of insulation, how the insulation's put in there, and then the biggest thing is the airflow.
Yeah.
Are we moving air? Or, we talk about this with Larry Brown all the time. How much moisture do we have in there? How much humidity? If you've created a really hot little box and that hot little box is 70, 80% humidity, welcome to the South.
Yeah.
You're not only cooking, you're steaming.
It's like a jungle up there.
And, so we open these things up, and if you would, describe exactly how a ridge vent is installed so that people get an image of what we're talking about.
Okay, so get all the way to the end, basically, in terms of the roof installation, and the ridge vents are the last component or accessory that's going to go on your roof.
Because you start at the bottom and work your way up, right? I mean,
well, I don't mean so much that, although that's true. I'm just talking about the old shingles are off. We've got felt down. We've got leak barriers. We've got our starter strip. We've worked our shingles up from the bottom to the top, as you said. But, yeah, I was just talking about in terms of the order that you install the components. So what you're going to do is, and we actually do this before we get up that far. We go ahead while we just got the raw decking at the tear off, if we know we're putting ridge vents in. And we're going to cut about 1.5 inches off of each side of your ridge, okay? So that's basically going to give you about a 3-inch opening, if you can think about it like that. Now, the ridge vents themselves, the apparatus is coming up in a bunch of different ways. The ones that I prefer and use the most are the 4-foot strips. But it's basically a very, very heavy plastic that's vented and graded on each end. So it's pliable, and you basically just stick it, for the lack of a better word, on top of the ridge, and then nail it on both sides. And so it almost, think about it being shingles, if you will, on the top of that. That's what it would look like, your ridge cap shingles. But after you get the ridge vents down actually get them down themselves, then you'll put your ridge cap shingles all the way down. It shows a very low profile from the street. But again, one of the great things about it, obviously they work. That's what we're talking about. But water can't get in. This is the question the ladies always ask. How many of those bugs? No, the bugs cannot get in there. It's also graded as well. Water's not going to travel uphill, so you're not going to get any water in as well. And that's basically how it's done. But there's also, you can buy it in 50 and 75, 100-foot continuous strips, and there are applications that's better for sure, than the 4-foot strips. I like the 4-foot strips. They're easy to actually travel with, if you will, and deliver to the job site, and the guys find them easier to work with.
I think the ridge caps make the house look better. I think it just adds one little architectural feature. It makes instead of the peak of the roof just being there, it makes it kind of interesting. Reminds me of like a cottage in the woods or something, sort of.
And I tell you, if you start looking around right now, this happens constantly. Working with a customer, giving them my presentation on what I believe is the best application or a roofing system for them. And of course, ridge vents are going to be in every one of those with GAF, as long as there's an opportunity to use those on the house. But I'll take them outside if they don't understand, and you can generally look across the street and the neighbor's got it. So they get a real quick idea of what they look like. And they go, yeah, I was wondering what all those were. So we're getting to the point now. They've been out about 24, 25 years now. About 50-50, I would say, if you look around town. 50% of the houses have ridge fence and 50% do not yet.
Yeah, it's one of those ideas that I bet you wish you came up with it, because it's like, I mean, it's one of those, it's a no-brainer once you think about it. But I'm guessing with shingle design and everything, the idea was, well, how do we make them the most resilient, and how do we make them last? But maybe nobody thought about the temperature.
Yeah,
so somebody came up with the idea of the ridge cap.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just a great idea.
Remember what we had before we had ridge vents? What did we have?
I don't remember.
Whirlybirds.
That's it. Whirlybirds.
Oh, you're talking about for heat? Yeah.
Everybody knows what those are, and again, those were sold under the. They were never able to move more than about 400 square feet of air at any given time. So most people had one, some people had a couple. But when you're talking about 1,500, God knows what, attic space, 2 Whirlybirds aren't going to get it. And, it was galvanized tin. And so the wind had to be blowing, and after a while, it's going to rust up, and it just stops.
And things get jammed in there. You get leaves, you get gunk in there. And if they get dented, they can leak, too.
I had a lady stop us about 2 years ago, and we had taken 3 of them off of a house and had them sitting in the front yard. And she stopped and asked who was in charge. I said, well, maybe me. How can I be of service? She said, what are y'all going to do with those, pointing to the old Whirlybirds? I said, they're going to the landfill. She said, oh, may I have them? I said, yeah, absolutely, sure. Help yourself. Take that, and you can take those satellite dishes, too. And she said, I can have those, too? I said, yes, ma'am, you can have them. She said, I'm an artist, and I just love to make yard art. So she took satellite dishes and Whirlybirds and made something with them I've never seen. So,
all right, well, good for her. I thought she was going to stick them on a roof and create her own problems.
No, I was hoping he was going to say she was a yard artist.
Okay, that sounds good.
Whirlybird, you could have some fun with that. It'd be a cute little decoration. You got it done up right. But
speaking of which, there are 30, what do you call them?
Pallets. Oh, yeah.
Over at my place, if somebody wants them. I thought that was you.
Hint, nudge, nudge.
How do people get in touch
love some pallets
if they want those pallets? Because I know those are a hot item. You'll get the guy that'll pull up.
Yeah, I'm 901-484-5645. That's 901-484-5645. They're actually sitting on the street. I just saw them right on the Pope Supply over on Pleasant View Road. Right there in their front right there, just sitting on the curb.
And go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. It's funny you say that, though. I don't want to turn this into pallet talk, but, Alan, we've talked in the past because I live on a busy street, and I get pallets sometimes, and I put them at the curb, and it's always a question of, are they going to be gone in less than an hour or more than they're gone? I mean, Jay, people love their pallets, man. So,
yeah.
You got 30 of those bad boys? So
I saw them this morning. I dropped some stuff at the office. My office is across the street from there, and I saw them all stacked up like 2 stacks of 15.
Well, don't call Jay till the show's over, but yeah, call him. 901-484-5645. Okay, so, all right, well, here we go. It's always wide-ranging when Jay drops in. So, and we're going to continue the conversation when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
How tough am I? How tough am I? I had a bowl of nails for breakfast this morning.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I'll bet you that's how our buddy Deuce starts his day. He sounds like one of those kind of guys. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and our pal Jay Hill in the house with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So it's a great day to call us at the Big M Roofing and Remodel. Call us or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. Hey, Jay, during the break, you were telling me about somebody you felt like you wanted to give a little on-air shout-out. Is that right?
do, and like I normally do, anybody that found out about us through the show, we want to say thank you. And about 2 weeks ago, Eric Meyer out in Bartlett gave me a call. And his dad had some needs. He needed a roof. Just really wanted us to look around the whole place and just get him up to speed. So I met Eric and met his dad and walked around the house. And after a few days, we decided that it is time for a new roofing system. And he needs a lot of that old masonite, basically all of it, replaced with hardy plank, and a few gutter sections replaced and some painting done. So we're actually starting that project on Monday. So Thank you, Eric and Donald, both. We look forward to being of service to you starting Monday and then forward from that. But I'm always amazed because, I don't know, I didn't have any expectation when we started this venture, if you will, several years ago, what it would do. Met you guys at the show. We started talking. Sure, I'm not doing anything on Saturday mornings. and here we are. And, we get 2 or 3 pretty significant, deals a month. So Eric's favorite part of the show, by the way, is the tool part of it. Just likes talking about that and the great moments in building history.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
awesome.
what he likes.
Eric, we appreciate that. We'd appreciate it more if you'd call in or text us. But thanks for listening, Eric. And it's true. I mean, Jay, here's the other thing. Jay doesn't brag about this enough, but I will. Jay is one of the top-rated roofers in the Mid-South by a long margin. And you're always 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau. And, Jay, that's why we wanted to partner up with you, and I'm glad it's working out, man.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Max, you said we got another caller on the line.
We got Jim on the line.
Okay, let's bring him up. Jim, how's it going this morning, man? Oh.
Well, everything is fine. I heard you talking about roofs and the whirly birds and the vent caps or the ridge caps.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on solar fans with a I've got a solar fan already, but I'm replacing the motor because the motor went out.
Oh, a solar fan. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it just direct. It's kind of like a whirly bird, only it just runs. It runs when the sun's on it, and when the temperature's above 85 degrees, I think it runs even off of a power supply up in my attic on a low voltage. Of course, it's not any kind of a big, huge draw or anything like that. I just wanted to see what you thought about those.
Hey, Jay, before you jump on that, I got a question too. Can somebody just get a ridge cap? Like Jim, do you have a ridge cap vent on your house?
No, I do not.
Okay, that's a question. What if somebody says, yeah, what if they have a good roof, but they just want the ridge cap? Okay, well, anyway,
yeah,
you got a lot in there.
Good stuff.
Jay.
You'll have to keep me on point. Good morning, Jim. To the first question, I have personally no experience with a solar vent. However, I figured Allan would. Allan is going to chime in here in a minute. Do you know what the pitch of your roof is?
Oh, I have no idea. It's over in Berkeley. It's just an old house built in 1934.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you're probably, 5, 6, 7 at the most, I would say. And did you say that that you have a new roof or you need a new roof?
No, I just had the roof replaced this last year, actually.
I got you. So that's actually good then. So this is just, this is what my experience shows me and really what the data shows. If that's all you have for ventilation is the solar fan that you've got there right there, it's not providing adequate ventilation for your roof, okay? It's just not. However, there is a fairly easy remedy, and what you can do is you can basically just do just like we install ridge vents all the time, is just cut that 1.5 inches off of your ridge, and then put your ridge vents on there, and put your ridge cap shingles, match the shingles that you've got, and you're done. That'll let 25, 30 degrees out of your attic. I don't know what the data says that the solar will do. I can only compare it to probably just what a regular powered attic fan would do, which is 1100 CFM, and that would not be adequate enough for those style houses that are over there. I'm actually over in the Berkeley area myself. So,
okay.
Yeah, I've got ridge vents on mine, and we had a Whirlybird before I ever got in this business, and of course put ridge vents in when we did that, but don't have any experience with it.
How much per foot is a ridge vent?
I'd have to look at your house. There's some other factors involved. I just have to look at it and let you know. I mean, at the end of the day, it'll pay for itself. Now, how long that takes, I couldn't exactly tell you. But let's just put it like this. Let's say that you had a, 50 to 60 foot, maybe 70 foot long ridge home that was a 6 or 7 pitch, something like that. You could put ridge vents on there for about $1,500.
Yeah,
and they
really?
Oh yeah, and then it immediately start taking again 25, 30, 35 degrees out of your. It's amazing that it works and nothing. You don't have to do anything.
There's no electricity.
There's no electricity.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's mind blowing.
That's my situation now. I've been crawling around in the attic trying to figure out how to get the set screw out of the fan and drop that motor down, and then I spent $100 on the fan and the shipping.
Yeah,
the motor and the shipping.
And that's the thing. Yeah, these ridge vents aren't mechanical. There's nothing to break. I mean, it's really a no-brainer.
Jim, I'm telling you, man. We met Jay as a customer first before we ever got involved in the show, and I'm telling you, man. I said it earlier. My utility bill it's significant. I mean, it's dropped a lot. It's dropped significantly since we got the ridge caps, and since we had the new roof 3 years ago. I mean, we notice it, so I know it's paid for itself in my case. But
do you have a website that I can go to?
Yeah, I sure do. Great question. Okay. Yeah, go to Big M Roofing and Remodeling. That's a long word, but that's what it is. .com.
Okay.
Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
.com. Yeah, that's right. And we've got a great website. Can kind of show you a lot of the work that we've done, all our credentials. And then the number that's on there is actually my personal number. So if you want to give me a holler, if you'd like me to come take a look at it and see if we can be of service, I'd love to do that. And thanks for the call, man.
All right. And do you do other obviously, I guess you do other remodeling as well?
All exterior work, yeah. We're kind of exterior specialists, as Joe says, but we do everything from the outside: windows, doors, painting, gutters, all of those things. We do decks, certainly roofs. Okay. Yeah. So if I can be of service in any way, let me know.
Hey, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I did want to say something because you asked, and I know Allan had a strong opinion, but in terms of anything that's plugged in versus solar, I love the concept of solar, but it just seems like I don't know if we're there yet in terms of reliability, Allan. It seems like the solar components either break or they do, you know what I mean? Like, you get limited success. What do you think?
Well, Jay said the key phrase here was cubic feet per minute.
Yeah.
And
the CFMs, of course.
Yeah, that fan can only move so much depending upon the power it has available, because obviously you don't have a rocket engine sitting on top of your roof.
Right.
No, not at all.
Now, compared to a Whirlybird, now it depends on what you're comparing it to. If you want to put the solar powered fan up against a Whirlybird, there's no competition.
Right.
Right.
A powered fan, of course, is going to move more air.
780 CFM, I think, is what that fan I've got is.
All right, see, you're barely beating the Whirlybird. I hate to say
it,
but
that's
barely
the
beating
truth.
the Whirlybird.
the least powerful powered vent that you can get. They start at 1,100 and go up to 2,000. For the dish size. So, but even if you had 4 of those in your attic, I'm telling you right now, you'd be better off with the ridge vents.
And no electricity.
That's the crazy part.
And no repairs.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks,
you,
Jim.
sir.
Thanks for
All right.
calling, man.
Bye-bye.
Great questions.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
But Jay, the ridge cap, it's a no-brainer. Like I said, no moving parts. It's just letting nature do its thing. Air is just moving through 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and it's that time of year, where this topic's obviously going to come up, just like some of those winter topics come up with other things, like freezing pipes.
Absolutely.
It's my time.
We got a lot to discuss today, and we'd still love to get your phone calls. So, but hour 1 is in the can. Stay tuned for hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So what better day could you pick to call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. And if you want to see what Jay Hill looks like, it's very easy. Just go to the studio cams. They're on. You can go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's Facebook page or the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page. And while you're over there, scoot on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there, including our posts about this week's great moments in building history, which it's more accurate to say it's going to be a great man in building history. This is we're going to celebrate the famed architect Antoni Gaudi, who really was a guy ahead of his time. He was a 19th century architect, and we're still feeling the impact of his work today. So, but also there's a lot going on. Before the break, we were talking. Oh, I should also say, I'm surprised Allan hasn't really said more about this, but today is Burnt Bacon Day and National Guy Day. If your name's Guy, right?
Or
Max?
not only that, but it's also National Almond Butter Crunch Day.
Okay, now we're
there
just
we go.
That sounds good.
There we go.
Okay.
And Waffle Iron Day.
Well, how many? Okay. I mean, we could really just declare this.
I got a bandolier of holidays at my disposal.
All right.
A
Well,
plethora, a cornucopia.
Precisely.
Guy Day, though, I feel like, there's not that many out there. I think that was a big name. Like I said, growing up in the 70s, I remember a lot of people named Guy. I don't see as many these days. So Guy Fawkes, Guy, whatever.
I think that one kind of faded.
My favorite guy is still Guy Fieri.
There you go. Hey, but before the break, I want to just tidy up, put a bow on this one conversation. We were talking to Jim. Jim was asking us about our opinions about a solar-powered whirlybird, basically. Is that a solar-powered
attic fan?
fan.
Yeah, attic vent.
And we were really singing the praises of the better option is a ridge cap vent, which is basically there's no mechanics. You literally have a vent at the peak of your roof, and I mean, Allan, you and I know myself, it has significantly dropped our utility bills every month. But I was just thinking, if you want to visualize, the way I visualize it is if you had a garage and maybe you had one window in that garage, to me, the difference is opening that window to let the heat out versus just opening the full garage door. So, I mean,
That's a good analogy.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's
like that.
you're not going to get the same air movement as if you just whip that thing open. And so
I think some of Jim's challenge too may be that again he had a 700 CFM, and I don't know what the expense of that was. Clearly, that's not going to be enough. So, what do you really have to spend in the solar world to get something that's efficient? And then you still would have to have at least a couple of them on a 1,300 square house with an 8 pitch.
Oh, go ahead, Allan.
Well, you've always got to look at basically the definition of security, and when you talk about any job, and the definition of security is what is the cost of securing the item. Once the cost of securing the item exceeds the item, it's considered secure. So in this case, it's performance. So we need an X level of performance to say we actually perform the job. So in the case of an attic, cooling an attic, we're talking about being able to move a couple of 1,000 feet per minute.
Yeah.
Or at least allowing the access to that air. And the ridge vent system is very ingenious in the fact that it's also taking advantage of the soffit system. Because your house is not airtight.
No.
So, the big thing, Joe, you and I have talked about this all the time. Your house is not stable. It moves. It leans, it creaks, it expands, it contracts. The roof is an easy bake oven or a refrigerator, depending upon the time of year. And moisture is always the enemy. So as you're looking at these devices for your home, and I'm kind of easing into my segment already of when you look at these devices for your home, you really have to kind of look at, I know it looks cool and I know it says cool things, but then you have to do the quick analysis.
Right.
Is it performing or is it secure?
Yeah.
What is the performance I actually need?
Yeah.
And I tell you what just occurred to me. What Jim's trying to accomplish is what a lot of people are trying to do. We're trying to let Mother Nature, let that sun come down and drive that fan. So I get that, but think about this. Really, that's what you're doing in a heck of a lot better way with ridge vents, because now what we're letting Mother Nature do is let that natural property of heat rising go to work, and it doesn't cost anything, and it won't break.
Yeah. Right. It reminds me of like your attic is like a tea kettle, and if you just stuck a cap on it and had a little hole, that's a lot different than just opening the whole thing, But anyway, all right. Well, we've sure beat the metaphors into the ground. So,
Yeah, the window and the garage door, all that. It was great.
Hey, Jay, but you deal with more than just roofs. Although we always lean heavily. I did have a question though. So this is multifaceted. Okay, this is because you're a former insurance agent as well,
right?
Okay, well, I literally actually, I think Max, I didn't give you the fair warning. I think we had some lead in for this. Basically, I was thinking of our home as a battlefield. I don't know, just to make it more dramatic.
All right.
And the most insidious enemy is water, right, Allan? Mm-hmm. Water is always the enemy. So, okay, there we go. Boy, did I not set that up good. But anyway, Max had this. So I had a customer. I was supposed to do I had an appointment booked, and she called, and I could hear the workmen in the background, so I knew this was not fun. But basically, it's the same old story we've heard a million times, Allan. She has an air conditioning. She has an air conditioner in the attic. The pan clogged and filled up. And it filled up the ceiling overnight, and it just collapsed into the living room.
I get those claims.
And Jay, you were exactly the guy I thought of I thought obviously of Larry Brown, which we'll talk about shortly, but because we're always warning about your air conditioning unit requires maintenance. Not a lot, but just basic. Something this simple can cause a catastrophe. But she's like, I need to talk to my insurance company. She's frantic, she's trying to get it cleaned up. But Jay, you were the first guy I thought of because you're a former insurance agent, and there's a whole process here, right?
There is, and I don't know the extent of how far Larry goes with something like that. Most HVAC guys, actually, that's what they do, and that's pretty much what they do. As far as guiding a customer through an insurance claim, because not only did that overflow pan come over, water just absolutely came down the walls, ruined all the hard. That happened to our
it messed up her floor too.
Mr. Bailey.
Yeah.
Mr. Bailey here, happened to him. He can tell you about it. Unbelievable amount of money that it can cost you if you're not careful right there. You need some help to be going through those claims, because there's so many things that you don't think about. Pulling those baseboards back, wet insulation behind it. Again, the hardwood floors. If anything warps, there's a lot going on there, man.
Mildew, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, mold remediation alone, right there is a huge topic. I would love to point out and Larry, I'm trying to work you up some business here. Talk to your HVAC specialist about getting an overflow sensor.
Boom.
This
Larry talked
is
about that
a
with us.
Cheap,
Right.
easy little thing. I swear, as a homeowner purchaser, you look at this and go, I cannot believe I paid for that. It looks like it does nothing. All it is a water sensor. If water gets in that pan and reaches a certain level, it turns off the AC.
That's what you want. I mean, these problems are all preventable. Max was
And
talking about his toilet disasters. All of these things are easily preventable, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
And-
it doesn't occur to them to go up in the attic and look at their attic pan. But,
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I got a call, and it's a friend that goes, I have the weirdest stain on my ceiling.
And
I'm like, well, it has begun. Here we go.
Yeah.
Get the shop vac. We're going to be, let me introduce you to the world of slime molds, backed up drainage, because the pan was full of water, but it wasn't blocked up there. It was blocked up further down the line.
Right.
So we had to, get in there and put a little pressure, get the slime mold out. And then I had to introduce her to the wonderful little tablets that you can get that keep slime molds from growing.
Oh, yeah. So, Jay, if people, because I know this is happening all over the city, please get up there and inspect your attic fan, your AC pan. Make sure it's not clogging up. Make sure there's not debris in there. But, Jay, if they have a disaster, how do they get in touch with you? Because, I mean, really, Jay should be the first guy to call. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. 901-484-5645. 901-484-5645. And that's my direct number. Or certainly you can go, as Jim asked, to our website, which is bigmroofingandremodeling.com. That is one word.
Absolutely. So a lot on the table today, including our great moments in building history. This is going to be an interesting discussion. I think you're going to appreciate this, Jay. When we come back, we're going to talk about a 19th century architect that was way ahead of his time, Antoni Gaudi.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Call poison control if you're bit by a spider. But check that it's covered by your healthcare provider.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And, of course, after you do that, call Jay Hill. He is the insurance expert. He's the man to call. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So what a great day to call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. We've already had some good conversations. I thought Jim's call was very relevant. He was asking us a lot of questions about ridge caps and solar-powered vents in his attic, but let's face it, Deuce set the bar very high this morning with his call about his plumbing disaster, which he shamefully did not capture on video. That's my only critique of him, but I liked his can-do attitude with that. Oh, yeah. I don't know if his wife appreciated it, but
she did later.
Yeah, later. It's 5 years later, maybe. But
there were a lot of lessons learned with that story.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you think about how he took us through it, there were like 4 or 5 that man, yeah, we'll never do that again, or that, or
exactly.
that, or that.
All right, Max, hit it, man.
And now, great moments in building history.
Well, I am looking at you, Max. You introduced us to this. Well, I know Allan's familiar with this work. I wasn't, but you introduced us to this, so I feel like it's only right to let you set the table on this discussion. So,
well, let's just say that we celebrate the belated birthday of a man by the name of Antoni Gaudi. And what's interesting about Gaudi is the fact that, well, first off, he was born in a little area called Reus in Spain, and where he draws a lot of inspiration for his work as an architect. Actually, it goes back by virtue of his family's profession. They were Boilermakers, and this fact helped Gaudi acquire like a special skill for working with space and volume as he worked in the family workshop.
Wait, I don't know what a Boilermaker is. Sorry.
Hot water tank.
Oh, okay.
A boiler.
Well, I'm just asking.
There you go.
I was honest enough to say I didn't know.
This was a very different item because of your boilers went into your, well, think steampunk technology.
That's all I need to know, steampunk.
There
Okay,
you
go ahead, Max.
And so what's interesting about Gaudi is in addition to being able to acquire knowledge through his family's profession is the fact that he kind of turned a weakness into a strength, in that when he was young, he was very sickly, and so he spent a lot of times at their summer home in a place called Rieux-Dames, and he had plenty of time to pass to contemplate and store up in his mind the secrets of nature, which he considered in his mind to be the supreme mistress and ultimate teacher of the highest knowledge of architecture, to the extent that he likes the idea of his work reflecting in its own way, building on the laws of nature and kind of reflecting a more natural structure. And he wanted to make like the most sustainable, beautiful, and effective work possible through his work. And he was even once quoted as saying, originality consists of going back to the origins.
I have some thoughts about all that, Max. But could you tell us really quick what his professor said when he graduated? Because I thought that was a great quote.
Well, what's interesting about Gaudi himself is that he was kind of eccentric for his time, and so his director back in the day said, "I do not know if we awarded this degree to a madman or to a genius."
What's interesting, because what I've noticed immediately about Gaudi is we've seen this, Allan, in nature. How many actual 90-degree angles are there? You almost don't see any.
No.
And yet in Gaudi's designs and engineering, I don't see very many 90-degree angles. I see a lot of curves. I see a lot of arches and things like that. He seems to really have embraced that concept.
Well, I'll pick on while he was in school, because one of the things that the School of Architecture he was at had a huge collection of was art and photographs that were Egyptian, Indian, Persian, Mayan, Chinese, Japanese. So they had this very eclectic of more Eastern, less Western ideals. And the one thing he noticed right out of the gate was that none of the art was perfect.
Very
so
interesting.
the idea was that you could create space, and again with the boiler background, because the boiler background was how much space can we create and how sturdy can we keep it? Because boiler explosions if you were in a commercial setting could take out the whole factory.
Sure.
So so you have a balance between space and structure.
Right.
And that began what was called Catalan modernism, which was the sweeping styles. So if you look at like your Gothic churches, there's not a lot of hard corners.
No.
Everything kind of rounds off a little bit, and it's decorative. And there are, in the Western idea of Gothic, we have gargoyles and stuff like that. Gaudi was kind of renowned for very decorative and beautiful salamanders.
Yeah.
So he added all these decorations, and with the idea of how a tree supports itself, it's self-supporting. Every layer self-supports above and below.
Yeah.
That actually brings me to something that makes Gaudi's work even more eccentric and unique, is the fact that, going back to the fact that he was against sort of Gothic architecture, which had a lot of buttresses and internal supports, he did something which is called an equilibrated system, where, in other words, it's completely self-standing. It doesn't require any internal or external bracing.
Yeah, he has a few buildings that it's really interesting. You look at them and it looks like a 5-story, almost like an apartment building. It's full of curves, and yet the interior structure isn't doing it. You don't need that to support the building.
And not only that, but I would like to note on one of his hotel structures that he even made it so sustainable that even to this day, they don't require air conditioning by virtue of the way that the layout of the wind, by the airflows.
I knew Allan would exactly. That was the one.
Yes.
This guy, his thinking was way ahead of its time. They even said he might be more than 2 centuries ahead of his time. So yeah, he thought about all those things.
There in the middle of Barcelona is one of his crowning glories, which is the Sagrada de Familia, which is the huge church.
Huge doesn't even say it. This would be the tallest church
This
in the world.
thing is
This thing
absolutely massive.
In fact, he said we were going to make it 5 feet shorter than the mountain around it out of respect for nature.
Out of respect for the
God.
mountain. We're going to pull up right there
We're
at the
gonna
last
stop short,
possible second.
but this thing is gigantic.
And if you go look at a picture of it, the first thing that will strike you is that it almost looks like gargantuan wicker baskets.
It's very odd. I don't even know how you designed it. How did he put this on paper? Because
he made models too.
Since Allan jumped into this one, because that was sort of his crowning jewel. But Max, it's still under construction, right?
It is. But what I wanted to kind of mention as a preface to Gaudi's work on Sagrada Familia is the fact that his work was also ever evolving. And so Sagrada Familia kind of represents the crowning jewel of his work, so to say. But what's interesting about Gaudi personally is the fact that this also represented like a more mature, like greater maturity on his part, because a lot of the work that he did prior, like the hotels and stuff that we just mentioned, was work for the bourgeoisie, like the upper class, and he lived sort of a more extravagant life. But literally committing to the bit, he became very mystical, he became very aesthetic and devout and everything as he was constructing Sagrada Familia, to the extent that they almost kind of confused him for a beggar in terms of the way that he dressed and the way that he conducted himself.
Yeah, he exactly. So
Now, to tie all this completely back to Tool Talk, is many of these ideas are being reanalyzed by modern architects today, looking at them specifically from the idea of space, structure, strength, and airflow.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're in the Mediterranean.
And light, don't forget, he was big into the way light interacted with the structure.
You kind of stole the thunder there,
Sorry.
Joe, because the big thing is much like a Stonehenge. As the sun moves around his structures, the sun changes the appearance of his structures, just like the sun changes appearance of mountains and that sort of things.
Right.
So he really put so much work before it ever even hit paper.
I don't know how you even conceive of some of this stuff
the
that he
man's
designed.
mind must have just been going 1,000 miles an hour because he was looking at airflow. He was looking at light flow, how the sun moved, and he produced some very interesting looking buildings. Some are far better than others. However, I love to point this out, still standing, still being used, still completely functional.
Oh, and they're tourist destinations. If you go there, you got to go see his work.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, go ahead,
And then
Max.
what's also interesting, too, going back to the lighting thing, we only sort of prefaced this, but expanding on it more is the fact that he literally had certain stained glass at different parts of the church in Sagrada Familia to reflect the mood of the hour of the day, which is pretty impressive. And that's kind of, he probably had a lot of time to think about it because he literally lived and set up his workshop inside the church before he died.
So this cathedral, basically he already accepted that it would not be finished in his lifetime. It's been under construction for 142 years. I mean, Jay's Googling all this, so go ahead.
I know nothing about the Gap, so I was trying to learn a little bit about it. And on the cathedral, this is cool. When asked to comment on how long the cathedral would take to construct, Gaudi said, "My client is not in a hurry."
He's a very interesting dude, and so and of course, like you said, Max, he was very humble. He dressed like he was mistaken for a street beggar, right?
In fact, on the day that he passed away, he was mistaken for a street beggar. He was tragically struck by a tram, and we got he was stolen from us too young.
But there's more to discuss, and we're going to do that when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Just a few more seconds of mental preparation and I'll be painting this wall.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
That's what I appreciate about Jay, too. He always does a lot of mental preparation before he gets to work on your roof. Good practice there, Jay.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, the man himself, Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. We've already had some good interactions this morning, and, so let's keep them coming. In a minute, we're going to get back to our really interesting conversation. In Great Moments in Building History, we're actually saluting a 19th century architect. We should say he did most of his work in the late 1800s, early 20th century, and Antoni Gaudi. Before we get to that, though, we're going to also speak about another great man, our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration. Boy, talk about, even though we're just bringing this up now, Allan, his spirit has been interweaved into the conversation today, because what are we talking about? We're talking about water. We're talking about airflow through your structure, humidity control, and just how important it is to stay on top of your HVAC system and keep it maintained. There is nobody better than Brown Refrigeration. We love the business culture they've created over there. We appreciate the fact that Brown Refrigeration is always at the cutting edge and beyond of the latest technology. Larry is thinking 5 and 10 years ahead of the game. That's why they've been so successful. He was the first one to alert us to the fact that there is a new refrigerant coming out in 2025, and it's going to be somewhat game-changing. Your HVAC system is a very precise, calibrated instrument in your home, regulating the moisture and the airflow in your home. And Allan, he's told us before, 50 to 60 gallons in the average home of moisture gets removed from your home. And
he might be underestimating some days.
So imagine that going through the pan and not and clogging up and not going where it's supposed to go. That's why we had the catastrophes we talked about earlier. That's why, and all of this is very preventable. That's why it's a good idea to get Brown Refrigeration to look at your system once or twice a year. They can identify problems. They can do some simple maintenance, and also they can identify if you might be in the market for a new HVAC system down the road. And they always work with Train Products and the Remy Halo system, which is another great device that uses the UV power of the sun to create cleaning air particulates that not only put out clean air, but they clean every surface that they hit. They have great financing. They just have a really rock-solid company, and we love the folks over at Brown Refrigeration. So call them directly. You can get in touch with them at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. Well, Max, one of the reasons, so we're getting back to our conversation about Antoni Gaudi, and I appreciate you alerting me to this great man. I didn't know anything about him until you told me about him. But one thing I think I will say, we've said this on Tool Talk for many years, an idea that we've roundtabled is that the more technologically advanced we get, I think our structures and our constructions are going to start looking more like nature. You've said that before too, Max.
That's actually a sentiment that I deeply agree with too. It's like, well, going back to like Star Wars and everything, because even Sagrada Familia looks a little Star Wars-esque.
Even Jay recognized that.
Yeah, there's a species in Star Wars that's literally technologically advanced called, I think, the Yuzon Vong, and they actually have ships and stuff that look organic.
Right.
Their armor is organic. Mm-hmm. I just really like the idea of like the more mature we get as a species and civilization, the more we start to harken back to our source material, so to say.
Well, the cathedral, because like you said, he drew a lot of his inspiration because he spent a lot of time in nature, and the forest, he considered a forest almost like a structure, which makes sense. If you're walking around under trees, it kind of functions like a structure, provides shade. It might even block the rain from coming through. It lets airflow move through there. But his cathedral is designed to make you feel that same sensation. So,
well, keep in mind, a lot of the architects and the people we choose to talk about were doing a lot of this work post-Civil War up to about World War I. Mm-hmm. You think about the number of public work programs going on. And the big feature I really want to point out, These people were trying to improve your work quality, your life quality without of mechanical assistance. Translation, they didn't have solar panels. They didn't have air conditioning. They didn't have a lot of the modern conveniences we have now to adjust our environment. So they were trying to do it with the actual structure and trying to take as much advantage of the natural world around them as they could.
Yep.
Because, you look at Mr. Eiffel, he was experimenting in that new metal stuff going on. We don't know if that ironwork thing's going to catch on or not. He says sarcastically. So then you go look at somebody like Gaudi, who was almost 180 the other direction into natural building and structures and styles. But the big analogy for all of us today is this stuff really worked.
Well,
and it held up and it did well. And if you look at it, and of course, you've already said, how did he draw this out so that people could build it? It's almost 3D printing.
I don't know how
because
you
they built
explain this to
in
somebody.
layers.
Nothing about this is cookie cutter.
Right.
Everything's unique. I don't know how,
What complicates the matter even further is the fact that, yes, he built models, but let's just say that not all those models survived because during the Spanish Civil War, like where the era of Francisco Franco, these revolutionaries and anarchists destroyed his models. And so people had to be dedicated enough to his vision to want to try to recreate and reconstruct these models, even to the extent that they're still doing it today with modern 3D printing.
Right. Yeah, they did. They gathered up his porcelain models and they had to reverse engineer and everything. So I think what appeals to me too, though, is the notion of especially when you look at the cathedral, because that's it's supposed to be completed in 2026, right, Max?
The anniversary of his death.
The 100-year anniversary of his death. Well, the thing about it is it's not just paying tribute to making it look like being in a forest. It's actually engineered. The engineering is built in. Well, I don't know what that system is called, Max, but the columns look like tree limbs that are supporting the roof and everything.
They look like solid rocket boosters.
Yeah, yeah. And also, the other thing he did was he used different stone for the columns depending on what the parts that required the most support, he used the denser stone and everything. He put
local mountains and local quarries.
Right. And stone, as you know, Allan, behaves a certain way. It even behaves a certain way when it comes to cooling a space. And
exactly.
He was thinking about making it comfortable in a space, not just, I don't know. The guy, I still don't think we've caught up to his thinking yet. So,
What's also fascinating, too, and also very mature on his part, is the fact that he said that he wanted this to be completely self-funded, and to this day, it still is self-funded. There is no like government incentives. It's all completely funded by patrons that are passionate about what the work that he's doing, and so they fund the visitors fund it, or generous patrons fund it, and so by the end of this, we could say that it was created by the people for the people.
Yeah, it's a big but it's true. Yeah, that is something to be said. Like whenever you go and you take a tour, I don't know how much it costs to go walk through there, but that money's going to, it's odd to take a tour of a structure that's still being built and you're actually helping. So you have a sense of ownership, I suppose, when you go check it out. So.
Does anybody have an idea of what's financially invested in this project?
I thought it was like 300 and something million euros.
So I guess they have to calculate. I mean, 142 years. That's
you got how much of it was current.
But when you research Antoni Gaudi, and I would strongly recommend doing that. Don't overlook his other structures, though. The guy made his and like there's people they travel to Barcelona just to take the tour of all of his works, and they're very. I mean, they hold up, Allan. I can't promise all of them are my favorite design in terms of some of them, but there's no denying the engineering and how well made these were.
Well, that's his style became the Catalan modernism. Other people have emulated him. There's just a number of buildings that make Barcelona so beautiful, and it's in a large part due to the big boom right around the year 1900.
Right.
If you kind of tie it into like our favorite World's Fair, was the Columbia Exposition in Chicago, and that was what,
1893.
1893.
And it changed a lot. Yeah.
And you think about the shocking amount of technology and growth that happened 5 years before that and the 10, 20 years after it.
Mm-hmm.
So many great ideas. And like you said, we're really honestly just now catching up to a few of them.
Right.
And going, if we got to build homes that are more efficient, let's do this. So we've been talking about ridge vents all day today. All a ridge vent is designed to do is create airflow.
Right.
Guess what these people were experimenting with 100 different ways 150 years ago?
There
Airflow.
you go. Exactly. So it's a good one, though, Max. Did you have any parting thoughts about Antoni Gaudi?
Well, what I kind of like about him as a person in terms of like him is the fact that the purity of the work is reflected in the purity of the artist himself. And so it's very hard. I like the idea of the fact that you can kind of like, you could go into this structure and everything, knowing that the man who made these works and everything was trying to walk the talk, so to say.
Yeah, these were definitely his design. And he lived there while he was, he lived there for what, 30 years while it was being constructed.
Well, he's buried at the Basilica.
Yeah. So,
he's still there.
You think about imbuing your spirit into a space and really having it reflect, but
he also never married too, or had children, and so you could say that his work was his children.
Yeah, he was really dedicated. He's a very interesting guy, but like I said, I think people are going to be looking at his work for years to come, and following some of these concepts and these engineering principles, especially when it comes to mimicking nature and with all of the all the lessons to learn there. So, all right, that was a good one, Max, I have to tell you. So, but man, we got a lot to cram into this last segment, but we're going to do it. We're going to shove it in there. And so stay put. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Everything that has transpired has done so according to my design.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
That's Gaudi's operating principle. I can't promise that's what happened today on the show, but we tried. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And our buddy Jay Hill had to run duty calls. I guess he's got a project going on in Germantown that he had to go over and oversee. But if you need to get in touch with Jay, it's he can handle all of your roofing, basically the entire exterior protection of your home, from roofing to gutters to siding to windows. He is the man to call. You can reach out to him at 901-484-5645 or go to BigMRoofingandRemodeling.com. It was a lot of fun having you on the air today, Jay. But if you want to get in touch with us, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline, 901-683-0989. And I guess people have been doing that, right, Max? So we've had some good calls today. Now we've also want to check in on who's been texting. So,
well, we have someone I nicknamed the Grenade because of the fact that Carl. Thank you, Carl, for the text. He sent us a picture when we were talking about that fire extinguisher grenade. He sent me a footage of this brave man holding it while it exploded.
Right.
And so, Carl, your nickname is now the Grenade.
Not a bad name. Okay.
And so he was saying that Gaudi Park in Barcelona is amazing. It looks like something Dr. Seuss would draw.
Yes.
Yep. I think you're right. No straight line. Now, you have to wonder, because Dr. Seuss, Theodore Geisel, came along after, and he was in war. Okay, Allan.
And Frank
we know
Lloyd
he
Wright
went off to fight in the war in Europe.
You are
and
correct.
I bet you he was inspired by Gaudi. I have no doubt of that.
How about people like Frank Lloyd Wright too? That's pretty low hanging fruit in terms of organic looking structures.
I don't know though. Gaudi seems to stand alone with this stuff.
We all stand on the shoulders of the giants before us.
Yeah.
Because either you were inspired by something you didn't like, or you were inspired by a need, or you just saw something that you wanted to pick up the ball and run with it.
You just like the way it looked.
You just looked at that and went, it'd be so cool if we did this one extra thing.
I'm going to go research the connection between Theodore Geisel, Dr. Seuss, and Antoni Gaudi. Okay, that's a good one, Carl. Good point. What else you got, Max?
Second one is from Norman, another faithful caller. I have been on many flooring measures where the AC drain stopped up or the hot water tank started leaking in the attic.
Oh, yeah.
That's why when we build our house, we put the hot water heater in the garage. Water sensors for the pan only run between $20 and $35. Cheap insurance.
Yes.
Wow. Good thinking, Norm. I like that idea. Just get it out of the way. If it leaks into the garage, big deal. Let it run out the door.
He's got an overflow sensor.
Yeah, very good. Good engineering from the outset to give you that peace of mind. So,
and speaking of money, real quickly, going back to a text we had from last week, we want to thank Ian. Ian is a faithful supporter of the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, and he just wanted to let you know, Joe, that he's already got his tickets.
Nice. Ian, I appreciate you, man. So I bet you he took advantage of that special 2-for-1 offer we had about 3 weeks ago. So good job, Ian. And if you're interested in the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, which it's sponsored by Cumulus, so I feel justified in mentioning it. It's November 23rd and 24th this year. You can get your tickets at memphiscfc.com, and we have some guest announcements coming up very soon. So thanks, Ian.
And then we have one more. I saved it for last because I'm being arrogant and narcissistic.
Okay.
It said, this is from Michelle. How do I get a picture of Max? I don't see one on the website, and I don't know his last name.
And you never will, Michelle, I don't think, right? I mean,
welcome to the Witness Protection Program.
Why is that, Matt? You're kind of like Wilson from the, from Home Improvement. But yeah, they hear you, but nobody knows what you look like.
Although if you want to try to get to know me through my work, you could always go to newstalk989.com, scroll over to where it says weekend shows, and it says Producer Max, and you can find all my work archived there.
Michelle, think of it this way. I don't know if you listened to Kiss growing up, but Allan, we remember when Kiss, they were diligent. They would never go anywhere without their makeup, or they went out in disguise. And then once they took their makeup off, remember how, it was a big deal for about a week, and then nobody cared anymore. And then it's like, put your makeup back on, man.
They're just
the mystique was gone.
Yeah,
so,
just
Max,
4 guys.
I think you're smart to maintain this policy.
Then I'm a whole anonymity. I guess you could say my last name is Dutch and it's behind a glass.
Behind a glass. So yeah, Michelle, good luck. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you might see Max at the grocery store and not realize. But Max, what if your voice?
I suspect there will be paparazzi across the street.
Oh yeah. They may be waiting. So
I mean, Michelle said I will find you.
Well, there you go.
All right. Sounds a little creepy now, Michelle.
It sounds like Taken.
All right. Well, those are good texts. That's what we want. And Ian, thanks for chiming in last week. Sorry, but I will say Ian text in like 30 seconds before the show ended. So if you got anything, folks, you better do it now.
Send us the text. We'll get to you.
Okay.
Send it in. We don't care. We'll get to you.
All right. We have just enough time for one more. Let's get to our must-have item of the week before we get out of here. I don't even know if people will be able to see this. I'm holding it up. This is a pretty beat-up pair, Allan. There's super glue.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, now you, of course, have to give us the technical name. I know what I'm calling this, but what am I holding up here?
Well, you are actually, the technical name for those is a thumb forceps. Better known as a good old pair of tweezers.
Yeah, because nobody knows what that is. Now, this one, I will say, if you're looking at the camera, these come to a very sharp point. Yep. You could actually probably use this in self-defense. You could, jab.
You could leave that in somebody pretty easily.
But, Allan, it's like, tweezers. What do those have to do with the job site? Oh my God.
So much.
How many splinters?
Gosh.
Splinters are painful.
Yes.
Especially metal splinters are the worst. But man, it's not only that though, but pulling splinters out. I know there's some people, they just can't do it. They have to have somebody help. Like they don't have they get squeamish. I've pulled thousands of splinters out of my hands, but it's amazing what that can do to slow you down when you've got a splinter in your
that
finger.
Little dink, you just keep touching it and you just kind of get that little electrical shock every time. Yeah.
But I bet you, like me, Allan, you've used these for things that have nothing to do with splinters, right?
Thousands.
Talk to me. Let's exchange some tweezer stories before we get out of here.
Okay. Well, to tie in to what I'm going to talk about next week, which is going to be smart systems. A lot of electrical systems have little plug-in panels or dip switches. And a nice pair of tweezers will let you manipulate small wires easily or be able to get in and clean stuff off or pick up any small particulate that may be causing you problems.
Right. Yeah.
So I end up using mine a lot on alarm systems.
That makes sense because you got to get in there. And,
well, you got to tighten down that tiny little screw or dip switch, and you got to get that wire in there just right. And a pair of tweezers can make all the difference.
Yeah, I usually use it for that hard to reach spot. I've actually, believe it or not, used it. I was using a finishing nail, and I had to I had to get it where it would just set. It was in this tight molding. I had no space to get my fingers in there, and I used the tweezers, and it worked great.
I have to ask: is there a way? Do they have magnetized tweezers?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was just about to ask. Or if there was a way to magnetize it by rubbing them against a particular metal.
Or hold a magnet to it.
Yeah, D, all of the above.
Yeah. I guess you got to make sure they're not aluminum, right?
You can get, the thumb forcep comes in a variety of materials and styles.
Okay.
So, yeah. The easiest way to magnetize one I ever found, Max, was just take a small magnet, set it on the back of it.
I have to ask, too, is there a particular type of metal that works best or worse for particular types of tweezer purposes? Because I imagine, certain metals you want to avoid using for tweezers, especially if they are for surgical grade.
Well, surgical grade is always going to be stainless steel.
Right.
Always. I do find that just your standard good old-fashioned cheapy, I went to the local pharmacy, aluminum tweezers work great for, I'd say 95% of the things I do.
And electricity will probably still go through them, so make sure you cut off the power source.
Now, if you are using them electrically, you can get plastic tweezers, which work fabulously.
Yeah, but tweezers, don't overlook them. We never overlook the obvious. Wow, what a show. What a wide-ranging show today. But it's over, and it's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass, and our buddy Jay Hill, who dropped in with us earlier.
And Deuce.
I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.